Hello and welcome to the British Strength Podcast, the only podcast on earth hosted by the only 3 British citizens ever to be ordained as starting strength coaches. I am Jack Bissett, that is Byron Johnston, and that is Carl Ragavan, and today we are going to talk to you little people out there who are sat on the fence, who are thinking, I want to get strong, I want to lift some weights, but I'm kind of scared. What if I get hurt? What if I get fat? We're gonna dissect all of these little misconceptions and limiting beliefs you have in your head, and by the end of this episode, you'll be thanking us for making your mind up for you. So, who wants to get the ball rolling on this one? Byron, I think you've got some notes.
Can confirm. Can confirm.
He always does his homework.
Paper
Notes.
This
one.
I know, and on paper as well. Sure, so this is, from a coach's point of view, I found this to be a really common conversation where people load in concerns up front. Sometimes I think it's other people that have said things to them. Sometimes they've seen things on the internet and they've seen something on social media that's put some fear into them. So there's kind of like a lot of like rumor mill going on. Oh, you're over 40. Oh, you shouldn't be doing this at 40. So things of that nature. You've got just going on social media. You know, anytime you start following gym accounts or exercise accounts, inevitably you're going to see some kind of stupid gym fails post, which will put this kind of unconscious link in your mind. This is dangerous. You know, there's problems here. There's risk here. So I think there's a lot of those things that go around that people will often confess to me early on in a call. I think that from what I found, if you've got someone who's typing this down, who's writing this down about some anxiety around the gym, probably for me, guys, the first thing I want to do is I want to get on a phone call with them. I don't really want to write back to them because you can't convey the message so much so over text. And sometimes people can misread things or really overthink it. I think, let me just get them on the phone call or a video call because I know I can put to bed a lot of these like worries they've got just by saying about my experience of doing it myself and coaching like hundreds of people. That's my first thought on it. How do you guys feel about that?
So I've got a little bit of a different take. I think there's something within a certain type of personality type, you know, the hypochondriacs, the people who are afraid to do anything. Those people will get hurt, they will get fat, and they will get injured because it's like this negative cycle. It's kind of confirmation bias. Those people that they believe and wish for something bad to happen, that it probably will manifest. But it's actually, what's crazy is when you're stressed, right? Because your central nervous system, your brain and your spinal cord, right? In a highly stressed, highly type A like person, you can get this really like pent up emotion and stress. Even if something is not hurting you, you can like nocebo yourself into it happening. Whether or not it happens is irrelative to the equation, but there are so many things like lifting with good form, eating enough, sleeping enough, you know, not missing workouts, having a lifestyle which is kind of a little bit more peaceful and zen as much as you can, because life is crazy and shit happens, right? But there is some certain personality types that, you know, like what you just said, you get on the phone with them, you can already hear their anxiety, and, you know, for love or money, sometimes those people can never be talked off the ledge because eventually they're going to do something and it might even be the slightest little bit of knee pain, or they might just get a little bit more extra fat, which they didn't have before because they're gaining muscle and fat, or they just don't fit into their jeans or t-shirts the same. And it's like, oh, well, I was right. You know, he didn't know. I know my body. I know my body. And I know what's going to happen. Even though they've never done this process, they've never been around 100 people and done this for years, they think that because they have a heart and lungs and a couple of muscle groups and they've done a few dumbbells before, they think that they're somehow the expert of themselves. And it's like, most of the time, if you're a novice, you don't know shit. So
There's like it's acting like a confirmation bias, and then it turns into what they would call in psychology like some kind of self-fulfilling prophecy. A bit like someone who's going to do the driving test, and they're so focused on, I know I'm going to hit the curb. I know I'm not going to stop in time. I know if I go to park, I'm going to get it wrong the first. And they're focusing so much on all the things go wrong. Guess what? They go into the test. Guess what happens? Exactly what they would be focusing on. Yeah. Boom. So they just kind of accidentally lead themselves into this. Interesting.
But whether or not those things actually happen to the degree they say it, I think it's more a case of you put this image in your brain that the fear of change and doing something and in uncertain environments, because it is the fear of the unknown. If you've never done heavy fives, if you've never had a heavy bar on your back, it is frightening. There is an element of fear and being scared. But if you've never done it before, like, it's not like we're going to load you with 200 kilos on day one, right? It's a case of they may see what we lift or look at our clients and be like, well, they can't even imagine putting themselves in their shoes, because 6 months from now, whatever they're deadlifting is twice as heavy, and they actually can't mentally, visually wrap themselves around the idea that they could be deadlifting 100 kilos. But it's not that we start with that. They just have never seen that progression and understand that your body can adapt, because they've never put themselves in that kind of regimented routine of training. So
there's an irony of success, like the starting strength. It's churned out so many really strong lifters, and of course then you want to post about that on Instagram. Of course then people see that and they're like, oh, that looks really. So it kind of feeds back into a loop of worry for the lifter. That looks so heavy. I couldn't do that. I know she does or he does. I had a case last year when I was coaching in the camp in Manchester, not this year, last year, 2024. Of one lifter who was, again, super anxious about this whole thing, wasn't sure, like really on the fence about booking their spot. So I got them on the call, got chatting about this, put their mind at rest. And what I did in that situation, and I've actually used this technique again recently with someone, I'm happy to tell that story as well. I said to them, look, here's what the camp starts at this time. Here's what we're going to do. The classes in that venue actually finish then. We've got like a whole half an hour when nothing is happening. Why don't just come, meet me earlier. I'll meet you at the gym. I'll show you around the gym. We'll just talk about things. I'll help you become totally comfortable with that environment. Now, this person did that. They came early. I showed them around the gym. We had a great call together. They showed up on the day. And guess what, guys? 6 hours later, they were absolutely one of the boys. They absolutely one of the boys. Yeah,
that is a very important thing you're touching on there, is the importance when you're coaching in person of having a really good first session. People are anxious about doing this for all sorts of different reasons. Lots of people will come into a gym with chronic pain or injuries, and they're scared shitless about hurting themselves. A lot of people think gyms are very intimidating places to be. They're worried that they're going to get there and it's going to be filled with huge, tattooed, hulking freaks who'll point and laugh at them for being so weak. And the important thing for us, I think, is to show right out of the gate, right off the bat, it's not like that. It's going to be fine. If you can, I like what you say about the call. When I can, I'll go further and go try and meet in person first.
Yep.
Because if I can get someone into the gym and just be like, look, here we are, here's the gym, do exactly what you said there, show them around, this is the rack, this is what we're going to do, and then have just a good, solid first session. All you're doing in that first session is teaching them the technique anyway. They're going to walk out, they're going to be like, well, he was really nice, that gym wasn't so bad, and nothing today hurt. Nothing was scary, nothing was painful, nothing felt like it was really stretching me. I think I could go back and do that again. That, I think, is when you've broken down that first barrier of the anxious first timer. If you don't have the opportunity to do that first session, or if you screw up that first session and scare them off, then
I think, to be fair as well, a proper strength gym, especially the ones that I've been in around the world, usually when you're around a lot of big, strong powerlifters, because I advocate myself. I forced myself to train with much bigger, stronger people. They couldn't be nicer. They are the nicest boys and girls, men and women I've ever met. And a lot of them I'm still in touch with on like social media and stuff. It's kind of ironic because it's almost like it's almost like an inverse of like the more you lift, the kinder and nicer you are. It's the idiots who are in a commercial gym who are barely benching 100 kilos, you know, doing the dumbbell rack, you know, staring like really aggressively at women, and you know, those kind of guys, those are the weak, like nobodies. Whereas real strength community, they're the sweetest people. And I always try and go out of my way to smile and nod. If someone's looking for kit, I'll be like, yeah, this rack is free, no one's been on that, or you know, I'm done, whatever. Because you can just tell the movements of people, and once they realize that you're cool and you're trying to help them in the space, or you know, they ask you a question or whatever, you know, everyone has been there. Everyone has been that person who's it's day one and I'm doing this thing. We as a community, we don't want to make it awkward. We want to include as many people as we can. That's your own premonition of what you think jumping in the lion's den is. It's nothing like that. It's a family, it's a community, it's a hub, and everyone is going to be so supportive. And if you need help figuring out how to use stuff, like usually most of the time, I've had nothing but kindness in those kind of gyms. It's the other gyms, those commercial gyms where you get the biggest dickheads who are like hogging 5 different machines and they got the towel here, their headphones here, their water bottle there, and they're like, oh yeah, I'm using all this stuff. And it's like, shut the fuck up, man. Like, what were you doing? You know what I mean? It's like, you fucking waste, man.
You're 100%
you skinny malingy. Like, I'm 5 times the size of you. You don't need all this kit. Just go over to the squat rack, you little bitch. Honestly.
I feel Carl needed to get that off his chest, Jack. That had been waiting to...
But it's true, but he's 100% right. Like, all of the great lifting gyms I've been to, it's exactly like that. Everybody is sound as a pound. If you're wandering around looking clueless, someone's going to come over and talk to you. The moral there really is, if you're worried about going to a gym, don't go to a commercial gym. Go to a hardcore lifting gym. You'll have a better time.
Out.
Yeah, it
Google
sounds like the wrong
and
thing to
Instagram.
do. Yeah, it sounds like the wrong thing to do. Oh my God, you want me to go where the strongest people? I'm like, yeah, because actually that's the best environment. They're the best people to be around.
Yeah.
So yeah, there it is. There's a good takeaway. Choose your gym wisely. What if someone doesn't have access to that? What do you think of like a home gym option?
Home gyms are great. The consistency.
Yeah, if they've got the kit.
Yeah, if you've got the money, but usually it doesn't take a heap of money. You know, you can kit out something really well for like $1 or $2 grand. But if you're going to go even more budget than that, you know, there's a great channel that I follow. I don't know if you guys follow it, called Garage Gym Reviews. Garage Gym Reviews. Cool. Garage Gym Reviews. So he has an amazing YouTube channel with advertising every different budget under the sun. If you want to go low, medium, high budget, you can just kit out a squat rack, some bumper plates, a good bar, a flat bench, some MDF and some rubber flooring, and bam, that is the whole gym. And so for most people, you know, if you do the maths, it's maybe like 1 or 2 years worth of gym membership is the equivalent of you having a home gym for life. And
that's exactly what I found.
I think the biggest takeaway is kind of a little bit of a life hack, right? Because most people have got kids, most people got a busy job, most people don't sleep very much. So if you have that home gym in your house, you don't need to commute, you don't need to waste extra time because your time's finite anyway. So especially people who move to more of like a 4-day program, or even just trying to do 3 days sometimes, you know, just having that consistency, you have no excuses. You open the door, the gym is right there. So it can be a little bit of a pain up front because you got to buy stuff and order it and set it up and la-di-da-da. But then it's there for life. So, and most of the stuff, you know, as we found out through COVID, some of it can resell really well if you buy good products. And you know, if you need to sell it because you're moving, or actually you found a proper strength gym and you're no longer using the home gym, some of the resale value on home gym stuff is quite good, especially if you get something like Rogue. That stuff resells really well. So,
Yeah, personally, I'm a big fan of the home gym. I use one myself. I train in other gyms as well, but it's enabled me to have really consistent training. And I often recommend home gyms for people who are, they've got a budget, but they don't have much time, and that's where they're really lacking. It just gets through. So people who struggle with time, if you can get yourself in a home gym, I'm a big supporter of it. Carl, you mentioned the whole kind of COVID lockdown phase. Again, that some gyms put a stop on a lot of training. And I mean, that's not good, right? I don't like stuff like that. So I'm of the philosophy of health should be at home as well as, just it should be part of the home ethos of taking care of yourself,
Yeah, and I think for sure that was the most annoying thing about the whole COVID thing was not having access to a gym, because I basically couldn't train. And I realized that, again, once you do this consistently and make it a habit, it's actually part of your mental health. I actually got quite depressed because I didn't realize just picking up weights can make me feel good. Like I just had no idea that it was so entrenched into my DNA now. I can't be happy without this habit. It's like brushing my teeth. I got to do it. It's just, you feel weird otherwise. And I think for most people that who are on the fence, who don't really understand what we're talking about, when you get 3 to 6 months into training and you have to miss it for whatever reason, you'll know what we're talking about. And it's really powerful. And you'll only feel it once you've lost it, and you have to get it back on your diary, and you're like, oh fuck, I fucking love this stuff. So
100%. And the home gym, if you're strapped for time or you're feeling particularly anxious about leaving the house and going to a gym, great option, 100%. So I think that's for people who are worried about getting into a gym, getting into the environment. They're anxious, they're afraid, but there are other reasons why people might be sitting on the fence, dragging their feet a little bit. And I think maybe the biggest one is fear of getting hurt. Maybe you're older, or you've got some sort of chronic issue going on, or you've been injured in a sport or an accident or something, or you've just bought into the narrative going round out there that things like squats are bad for your knees or deadlifts are bad for your back. And although you like the idea of being strong and muscular and having everything that comes along with that, you're kind of apprehensive about getting hurt. Now, to those people, I would say, you're not going to get hurt. It's fine. In terms of technique and execution for these exercises, the way we have you squat is perfectly safe for your knees. The way we have you deadlift is perfectly safe for your back. So long as your technique is good, which, if you're being coached, it will be, you're absolutely fine. Injury rates for lifting weight are extremely low when compared to any other sport. And we are not morons. We're not going to take you, into the gym for the first time with your chronic injury or your, pensioner's body and thrash you under 200 kilograms worth of weight. We've got bars that can be as light as 5 kilograms. We can put washers on the side of that bar to slowly add weight. We can find a load that you can tolerate without any pain. We can find a range of motion that you can tolerate without any pain, and we can start to build you up from there. You don't have to worry about that. We're not going to smash you to pieces with weight. That first session, the first time you come into the gym, is going to be gentle. It's all about meeting you where you are right now and going from there. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so first things first about this, that we're discussing here is, and Carl already mentioned this in a previous podcast, is we are only doing what the human body does already. So you think you shouldn't deadlift. Are you picking up your luggage? You're deadlifting. Are you picking up a relative if they have a fall? Or your kids if they're playing and you need to pick them up? The shopping, you're already deadlifting. And the difference is we're going to show you how to do it properly. Yeah, and if you want to carry on lifting things, which you do, this is going to sort that out for you. So safety, which is what you're interested in, safety is a byproduct of efficiency, and that's what we coach. We coach how to do this properly, how to do it efficiently, okay? So there's something to be said for that, all right? That care and attention and the analysis and the rigor. And if you don't believe us, get the third edition of Starting Strength and see how detail-oriented it is, because that book is loaded into the brain of all SSCs, and that's what you get when you see us.
Also, I think the common obvious duh is the name. We're called Starting Strength, not advanced level conjugate ice bath training, right? Strength. We are the base, right? And the reason this works is all the variables are frozen. We know you're just doing 5 reps. We know you're doing 3 sets. We know you're doing 5 lifts, and we're going to master that. And all we're incrementing is 2.5 kilos, which is 5%. Every session, we're just asking for 5% more, right? That's all we're asking. And if you're a person who's new to lifting, this is exactly how you should train, because I've been in gyms and I've tried programs with people where the lifts are sets of 12 and you're doing 5 different variations of every lift. There's no progress there. It's exercise. This is training, and you'll be surprised how fast you're going to make rapid progress, because we've kept everything incubated to monitor that, because doing the same lifts and just adding 2% difficulty is the way to go when you're new to lifting. And like we've said already, it works even for stronger, more advanced people who've never gone through this. That's how good this program works.
Yeah, and going back to your mentioning, Carl, of things that we control, variables that we're able to control, people, I think sometimes they're looking too closely at it and they're not looking far enough away. So if you just run a comparison on, let's say, barbell training in a gym versus other activities you could do, let's say football or rugby, well, in our gym environment, we control the lighting, we control the temperature, we control the ventilation, we control what the floor is made of. So, go ahead and go and play on a sports field after it's been raining. There's so many variables that you can slide, you can collide, you can have issues with, and we de-risk all of those aspects by the environment that we create. And even then, in the racks that we use, there are a device called a safety arm, which eliminates the idea that you're going to have a problem with the barbell that's going to provide a risk for you. So we've controlled for virtually all variables that I can think, right down to the chalk on your hands, so that even if it's a bit damp, you can't even slip and lose the barbell. It's like that level of precision, which leads to having generally a very low injury risk with participation hours versus things that you probably did in school. And when I think back to when I went to school, I cannot remember a year in school where someone didn't break a leg or something serious like that. Yeah, I have so.
Well, it's a really funny story, actually. This is a really funny story, kind of disgusting as well, but I'll never forget it. Is the rugby coach? He was proper old school, Mr. Moran, and I think he was Irish. He was proper serious. He told us this story about every time the New Year's that came into the weight room, which the main weight room part was that multi-stack. So it had the lat pull down on one side, it had the bench press, but it's shaped like the old Viking press. So it's one of those bench presses, and then it's got a cable row, and then the final piece, which he talked about explicitly, was the leg press, which was a very thin board. And again, most people start doing machines and leg presses. And again, this is a 12-year-old, 11-year-old kid, right? So this idiot, he put his feet down too low, leg press, and his foot slipped. The actual foot plate scraped his whole shin clean to the bone. and he had to rush the guy to hospital. And he just says, "Yeah, and you make sure you put your feet in the middle of the foot plate because I don't want more blood on my car." And we're just like, ah. and that was my first introduction to the weight room, was like hearing this horror story about a foot plate. And it's like, you think of how many stupid people are in the weight room with a barbell. You have to really focus. You can't just be tossing around, like looking at doom scrolling and stuff and just leg pressing away, not giving a... You need to be focused. And I think people don't maybe give that enough credit, because I think when they think of training or like exercise, they're thinking of switching off. I need to train to switch off from my life. I've got a stressful life. I'm going to go for a jog because it helps clear my head. And what's really fucking amazing about barbell training is that when you have a heavy bar on your back and you're doing 5 reps, nothing else matters, but you're 100% focused. So it's this clearing of your mind in a way that actually is the complete opposite to like someone going for a run to clear their head. Yeah, that person who's been running for 2 years might not have to think about technique or their pace or their running gait or their breathing patterns, but that comes with time and whatever. But even, you know, people just first start running, they can maybe just think that they're switching off. But I think, again, there's not enough understanding that being 100% in the moment and focused is a way of being kind of clear of thoughts as well. It's just a different kind of higher thinking. It's not just, oh, I don't like it because I have to think when I'm lifting. I don't like that. It's like, well, Jesus, do you want to just put your brain in the bin then? What the hell's going on here?
Well, another thing, you know, about that sort of risk of injury is, like you said, Byron, the environment in which we lift is very controlled. It's very stable. The risk is very low. But there is some risk, right? People pick up injuries. People make mistakes. Shit happens, right? That's true of life as well, though, right? Just because you decide not to go into the weight room doesn't mean that you're not ever going to hurt your knees, that you're not ever going to hurt your back, that shit's not going to happen to you. And, you know, life is risky. Whether or not you go to the gym, you're going to get hurt. You're going to do something that's going to get you hurt.
100% guaranteed.
100% guaranteed. And I would say it would be better when that day comes to be stronger than weaker. Because you are going to do something that's going to get you hurt.
Yeah, I could also add to that and say, when you're looking, if you're trying to, you know, engage in some kind of like physical program, whatever you're selecting, and you've got so many choices and you're worried about this thing, I think one of the most dangerous things you can do with your exercise is nothing at all. Just be sedentary and just get takeout. That's probably the most risky thing you can do if you want to run that by the World Health Organization. They published something around 2019, which they were explicitly presenting the major problem of our time in terms of the disease modeling, and it's what they call NCDs, which is non-communicable diseases. So this is like the high blood pressure, the type 2 diabetes, bone density, like all these risk factors now that are health oriented, many of which we can defeat with lifestyle choices, and barbell training, strength training, intelligent nutrition. Those things delete so many of those problems from being able to get anywhere near you. I would consider that as something to submit as well.
And as Rip famously says, if you have an injury or you are someone who's chronically weak to start with, or if you come into life scenarios where something bad happens, would you rather go into this situation being stronger or weaker?
Yeah,
it's a no-brainer,
that's the crux of it for me. That's the crux of it for me. Like, even if you're afraid, you should just come and try, because you will be better off for having gotten stronger at the end of it. And once again, if you hire a coach, the risk is almost zero, you know, because we'll manage it all for you. And when you say there about nutrition, Byron, that put me in mind of something that, you know, I've heard in and around the gym, on Tinternet, in the haters' comments, on Instagram and YouTube and whatever, and that's that I don't want to do starting strength because I don't want to get fat.
Carl needs to talk on this one.
Wow. Being someone who's gained
an article.
Yeah, being someone who's gained 50 kilos, I guess I know a little bit about being fat and gaining weight. I think the issue is, and this is constantly my gripe with people who have this problem, is they ain't strong, right? You literally have to, it's, being strong is in tandem with being heavy. You need to be heavy and you need to lift a shit ton of weight. Those of you who just kept up with the new deadlift record, you know, Thor is over 400 pounds, deadlifting 510 like a fucking toy, right? He didn't have abs. Notice he didn't have abs. He was kind of a bit fluffy, and that's all right, because when you're pushing your body, even guys who are on a load of drugs and the highest, best athletes in the world, you need to follow these rules, even at the highest level of strength. So if your little mediocre frame that can't even, you know, squat 100 kilos, if you're worried that going from 100 kilos to 140 kilos, that you have to get a little bit of a tire around your waist, you're not going to get to the next plate, which is 180. And most men can get there, but there's going to be phases where you may get a little bit more fluffy and then you bring it down, or you just kind of cruise. Sometimes you get to a certain body weight. If you're someone who, like was me, 70 kilos, and then you're trying to get to 90 kilos, it took me forever to go from 85, and then all of a sudden I blew to 91. And the same thing happened when I got to 110. 110, it took me forever to get to 115. So kind of just like strength training, this is the best part. I love this part. When people tell me, but I gain muscle, I gain weight really fast. It's like, yeah, you fucking should, because you're underweight. So that first 10 kilos, just like adding your first 20 kilos to the squat, that first bit of body weight is going to shoot. But best believe you're not going to go 10 kilos every 2 months like that for eternity. Just like weight training, your body weight kind of tapers off, and then you got to do another bump to change things up, and then another bump. So that's the thing which makes me laugh. It's only people who've gained a small amount of weight, and when I mean small, I'm talking 10 kilos, right? I've gained over 50 kilos. That was not linear. It didn't just go in 20 years. I just went boom. In the first 5 years, I put on 50 kilos. It doesn't work like that. Just like getting, you know, a really heavy deadlift or squat, you don't just explode up like that for normal people, right? We're talking about normal people here. And I think that is the biggest crux, is that they see that first 5-10 kilos shoot up, and then they think this is the projection of all their body weight, and best believe it ain't. And I wish it was, because then we'd have a lot more impressive, big, strong athletes and lifters coming out of this program. But the most you're going to gain for most average people is the first 5-10 kilos might go on. But honestly, I very rarely have heard someone say, oh man, in 6 months I gained 25 kilos. You know, it just doesn't happen. I wish it did, and it doesn't. And the people who make that excuse are people who've never really gained enough muscle or gained weight properly. And like I just said, your weight gain has to be in tandem with the weight on the bar. You need to add another plate, you know, every time you're gaining a substantial amount of weight. That's how we make this look muscular and athletic and useful. We don't just want to gain 50 kilos and nothing else happens to your squat. That's not training. That's bullshit. You've done something wrong, right? Your weight on the bar has to go up as well as the weight on the scale has to go up. And there is no other conversation about that. It's both in tandem. Performance and weight gain happen together. It's not a single like factor.
Carl, can I just a question on that? When you've got a client who comes in who is in the obese category, though, and not strong, so these guys,
Yes.
have got a lot of excess body fat, maybe doing a little bit of gym or really nothing at all. What do you feel about that in terms of briefing and working with them?
Yeah, so that is a completely different topic. So let's say someone is 140 kilos, right? A big person, right? And, they literally can barely squat to a box, let's say. What's interesting is weight training becomes the habit to then do the real training, which is re-engineer their food choices, right? Because that's something that I've found with me as well. From a food perspective, I'm way more consistent at eating well on a training day. I know I want to have this breakfast. I know I want to have this protein shake ready in my bag. I know I want to have X amount of meals after training. I know I want to have good sleep, right? So sometimes it's kind of re-engineering that. So by that person who's morbidly obese, technically I'm morbidly obese, by the way. But yeah, basically someone who's actually really fat and no strength. Someone who's actually really fat and no strength, brand new beginner, right? Barely squatting the bar. Training is actually the habit builder to then start re-engineering the correct foods to eat, what protein, carbs, and fats are, fiber, water intake, protein targets, so the food and the nutrition side, that actually becomes the real training. And the lifting is the fun part. It's the carrot, right? It's not the stick. The stick is having to re-engineer their fridge, because all the stuff in their cupboards and their fridge, if we opened it, there'd be a load of bad choices there. But people who are got a different physique, it's all about the food choices you got. Or like you just said, like having takeout. If those people are having takeout 6 times a week and we cut it down to 3 times a week, and now they're eating more food at home, or even there's companies called Cook where it's kind of pre-made but it's easier to kind of prep, stuff like that. Is just re-engineering that stuff. And the crazy part about those people is they're going to be really fucking strong out of the gate. Because if you've been carrying on your frame a huge amount of weight, just walking around, going upstairs, just walking, you're going to be stronger. So those people naturally will have an advantage to getting the biggest progress to their bar. But that's not where the real training happens. It happens in the kitchen and the habits. So those people, it's a little bit different, but I would say it's more of a food intervention and a habit intervention, and the barbell acts as that catalyst to be like, right, it's training day, I've got to have all my ducks in a row. And then over time, as they start to recomp and they start to lose more fat, gain more muscle, gain more confidence, right? These people who are in that category, they don't feel good about themselves. There's a lot of shame involved with being that heavy and that way. And they've been in an environment where they know they're the fat person that people don't like for that reason, because there's this level of shame involved. And those people, they get this huge boost of confidence because they're accomplishing stuff 3 times a week, and they feel instantly better because instead of kebabs, pizza, and whatever, they're now eating lean proteins and rice and potatoes and all that good stuff, salmon, and they just feel like a different person. So that is a completely different kettle of fish, but they're still going to get results. It's just that their path to progress is a little bit different to like the normal person. We're trying to just build because they're skinny. They're skinny fat. They have no muscle. They're weak as a bird, skinny fat. So they're trying to build, whereas the morbidly obese person is coming down. But both of them, the trajectory of their numbers, they're still climbing and they're still going to make progress. But I do want to also say that there's certain coaches out there who like to preach you're going to lose fat and gain muscle at the same time, even if you're advanced or intermediate and all of this rubbish. Usually that doesn't happen, but this is the one time in your life, even if you're skinny fat or morbidly obese, this will happen. You will lose fat and gain muscle. So your body composition, you're going to transform the fastest and the most impressive you've ever done. And it only truly happens when you're novice. No other program can really guarantee that happening, but Starting Strength can, because you're in that prime sponge place where you can just absorb everything and just recover from it.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to make a correction. I described myself as morbidly obese there.
You're 115 now, huh? You're not so...
I am morbidly a beast.
Oh!
Nice. Nice.
So, I think that has pretty much, in my mind, laid to rest the fears of almost everybody who would be sat on the fence about lifting weights.
For those people that still have fears, can you put a comment in to wherever you're
if,
watching this, and
there's-
we'll come at
if
you.
there's something in your mind that's still holding you back, let us know and we can address it in another episode. Because really, there is no reason for you not to be lifting weights. Just stop being a coward about it. Grow up. Come to the gym. Be a man. And of course, thank you for listening. And you can tune in to us next time. This has been the British Strength Podcast. Carl, where can people find you if they want to hear more of your wisdom?
So my website is beautifulstrengthgym.com, and I am BEA Beautiful Strength Gym on all the platforms, X, Instagram, Facebook, all of that jazz. Catch me there, Beautiful Strength Gym.
Glorious. Byron, where can people find you?
Yep, just go ahead onto your favorite search engine and Strength Revolution, REV, revolutioncoaching.org, or on social medias, Strength Revolution Coaching.
Glorious. I'm Jack. My Instagram is Jack_castironstrength. My website is castironstrength.co.uk. You can find all of my stuff there. It has been a pleasure, gentlemen, and I hope you've enjoyed listening to the British Strength Podcast. We'll catch you next time.